I'm still in disbelief. I don't even talk about Amir in the past tense. I talk about him like he's still here.
71 days, and the pain is still raw for Karen Wells and Andre Locke. 71 days since police shot and killed their son Amir in a botched raid.
This is not a sign of weakness. I'm tearing up for my boy because I loved him unconditionally. I speak out because it's important that it doesn't happen to anyone else. Enough is enough.
22-year-old Amir Locke's death shook the nation. An innocent young black man killed as police executed a controversial no-knock search warrant.
This pain will never go away. It's a pain that you can't explain. Sometimes I don't even know if my heart is beating. I have to feel my chest to make sure it's still beating. It's not fair.
On February 2nd, 2022, Minneapolis police were executing the warrant at the home of Amir Locke's cousin, who he was staying with. Police body camera footage shows. Police search warrant! Within seconds of entering the apartment, Officer Mark Hanneman fired multiple shots at Locke. Locke had been sleeping on the couch, the footage showing him holding a gun. But Locke was not named on the warrant. He was not a person of interest in the homicide investigation police were working, and he legally owned that gun he was holding.
It hit me in my stomach. My boy.
Karen, your eyes have their own language. As Andre spoke, I saw deep sadness. I saw deep anger.
Just knowing what kind of person our son was, it's not fair. He should still be here now. I keep asking God, why? Why did you take my baby? I don't even pray anymore. I haven't prayed since he's been gone. And I'm a spiritual person because I'm angry. I want answers. I want justice.
For more than 2 months, these parents hoped police would be held criminally responsible for the botched raid. Police search warrant! Until last week.
It would be unethical for us to file charges in a case in which we know that we will not be able to prevail because the law does not support the charges. And yet, a loving, promising young man is dead.
Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison announced that no charges would be filed against any of the officers involved in the shooting, including the man who pulled the trigger, Officer Hanneman.
I was not disappointed. I told them I was disgusted with the decision. There's something wrong with that officer. That's what I'm going to say, and I'm speaking to you directly. There's something wrong with you. Because you chose to kill our son that day. You had no right to do that.
Officer Hanneman has said that he feared for his and his teammates' lives.
Accountability and transparency is very important. Just accept that you messed up.
Experts say no-knock warrants are commonly issued across the country and have been for decades.
The police go to a magistrate or judge and they say there are specific circumstances in this situation to justify breaking into this private residence in a surprise fashion. They round the people up and handcuff them. And then, and this is key, conduct a search for possible evidence in that residence.
No-knock warrants were first introduced with President Nixon's war on drugs in the 1970s. But it wasn't until Ronald Reagan's presidency that they became a widespread practice. Defenders of no-knock warrants say these kind of raids allow law enforcement to better control their environment and preserve evidence. The practice has increased dramatically.
The benefits of a no-knock raid, as police agency might tout, involves fighting the drug problem. They unequivocally impact communities of color.
An estimated 60,000 no-knock or quick-knock warrants happen every year. One of the most high-profile examples, the 2020 raid that led to the killing of 26-year-old EMT Breonna Taylor in Louisville, Kentucky. It was part of our narcotics investigation, but no drugs were found in her home. According to a New York Times investigation, 81 civilians and 13 officers died from forced entry warrant raids between 2010 and 2016.
The police are using a really high risk tactic, and particularly today with so many households being armed legally with their own personal protection.
They created the situation. The no-knock warrant needs to be out of here. We need to get rid of it.
When I first saw the story of Amir, it just took me back to the night that the police were in my home.
Anjanette Young knows the perils of a police raid gone wrong. She survived one.
I keep telling you, you got the wrong place.
Lots of guns, big guns, scopes, lights, yelling at me, lots of chaos. My Thursday night will never be the same anymore because of February 21st, 2019.
The Chicago social worker stood naked for more than 10 minutes, handcuffed and terrified for her life, as several male officers barged in unannounced. But they were at the wrong home.
The only thing in my mind was, I hope they don't shoot me. I was praying that I didn't die that night.
The city of Chicago paid Young $2.9 million in a settlement over the incident.
The city of Chicago would not meet my demands, which were for change. I never wanted the money. I was asking for officers to be fired. There is no amount of money that can heal the trauma or even change the experience that I had.
Last year, 5 Chicago City Council members introduced the Anjanette Young Ordinance, which would ban no-knock warrants and set parameters on how to conduct warrants. At least 22 states and 20 cities have introduced bills banning or limiting no-knock warrants. 4 states have banned the practice altogether. Today, Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar met with Amir Locke's parents in person for the first time.
What was your sense of them?
Just incredible. As a mom, I can't imagine how I would be feeling if this tragedy has visited my family.
Omar wrote and introduced a bill called the Amir Locke In Deadly No-Knock Warrants Act last month.
What it does is it stops any quick knock warrants being issued. It strictly limits drug-related no-knock warrants being issued. It eliminates nighttime knocks. What we ultimately hope to do with this legislation is save lives.
Some in law enforcement experts who say no-knock warrants play a critical role in law enforcement and they can help avoid violence and preserve evidence. What do you say to those voices?
I'm not denying that there are severe cases where it might be necessary to save a life, but I also want to make sure that we are not finding ourselves using no-knock warrants in cases where there was no life to save, but there was a life to take.
With a Congress that failed to pass police reform even after George Floyd's murder, the chances of federal action seem slim. But locally, just last week, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry enacted a ban on no-knock warrants. Locke's parents say it's a start.
Justice will prevail.
For now, the couple is dedicated to continuing their son's mission, reaching out to his generation through the company he formed months before he was killed, called Saving the Youth.
We have to speak for Amir. He can't speak for himself anymore. He no longer has a voice.
This was a young man who understood the world that he lived in. He wasn't a bystander to the world that he lived in.
That's how I find a sense of comfort, a small sense of comfort, is knowing it's to help change lives, knowing that God has something to do with it.
I do believe that his life had a bigger purpose than a lot of people can only ever imagine.
His name will be in the law books, and he'll change lives, he'll save lives.